That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Eternal Beauty, the sophomore film directed by Craig Roberts, which premiered at the 2019 London Film Festival and will be available October 2nd, 2020, courtesy of Samuel Goldwyn Films.
This movie is about three sisters, one of whom's name is Jane. Mm-hmm. So we see them as sort of young women and then as, you know, like mature, like adult women. But Jane in particular, her mental health hits a crisis point as a young woman. Mm-hmm. And she's removed from the house with her three sisters and put into like a psychiatric institution. Mm-hmm. So then we catch up with her sort of in present time, and she appears to be like in her early 50s, you think? She's like in her 40s, 50s.
Well, Sally Hawkins is only 43.
Oh, well, she's very thin, so that probably makes her look older. And she also has like this blonde bob with bangs. Yes. She looks affected.
She looks severe. Mm-hmm.
But does a fantastic job. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the film revolves around her storyline and just her. We find her in an episode where she has stopped taking her medication. Mm-hmm. She says she's paranoid schizophrenic. Mm-hmm. So she kind of is on the decline when she meets a man played by
David Thewlis.
She becomes smitten with him. Mm-hmm. Thinks that she's going to marry him. That doesn't work out. But yeah, it's just kind of like her dealing with that episode, culminating with her man cheating on her with her sister and her mom dying, sort of snaps her back into shape. Like, obviously she's still schizophrenic, but she gets back on her medication and she seems to be like back on track.
Yeah, and I think we leave her depicting the mechanism with which she hears her voices through phone and through radio transmissions, which is very common for that diagnosis. It shows her being able to switch that off in her mind.
Yeah, I think so. A recurring sort of plot point is her mom telling her, do you know why you were put on this earth? Or we all have a purpose.
Yeah, do you know what your purpose is?
Do you know what your purpose is? We all have a purpose. And every time she's going to tell her, it cuts away. Mm-hmm. So we don't know what this mom told her. But on the mom's deathbed, she tells her same thing. We don't hear it. But the way Jane leaves that seems like she's satisfied with what she heard. Mm-hmm. So maybe she had been waiting for her mom to tell her something. But I thought this was a very lovely film. It's emotional, it's funny.
It reminded me a lot of depicting familial dysfunction in the vein of Muriel's Wedding, but without kind of that catharsis and poignancy that makes that film kind of uplifting. To me, this is not an uplifting film. There are funny moments, and as we were discussing, it's just because life is so fucked up sometimes you have to laugh because it's insane. So I think it's more of a downer than anything, but sure, it has funny moments.
Well, speaking of funny moments, so my first note is when Jane goes to visit her family. So we see her like current family for the first time for Christmas.
Mm-hmm. That is a good scene.
And she walks in, she busts through the door and like is all chipper and says like, you people don't ever get me what I want. So I went ahead and bought gifts for myself on your behalf.
And here's the receipts.
And she provides everyone with receipts and then opens her two gifts. Mm-hmm. I thought that was very funny.
That was funny.
A lot of really cool visuals. Mm-hmm. You know, her not taking her medication. It reminded me of those old school, like school photos where you would have your face, like your profile and your front-facing image. Yeah. They would do that with her and her pills.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I thought that was funny.
I liked how it was shot. It's also very disorienting because from her perspective, and as you come to find, there are bits and pieces that really put her, everything in question that we've seen, kind of like The Father, the Florian Zeller film, where we're kind of experiencing from the Anthony Hopkins perspective.
Although this is more obvious because clearly like her mental status is not satisfactory. So in The Father, Well,
there are just things that I was constantly calling into question everything I'm seeing. Even the fact that when we're seeing her sister Nicola, played by Billie Piper, having sex with David Thewlis, that I wasn't
you weren't sure?
I wasn't sure if it was actually happening.
I'm sure.
So the original title of this film was supposed to be In My Oils, which is an adage about being like in the place you want to be. You're in your best element. You're in your happy spot, which is kind of the opposite of something like Bees in the Trap, I guess. The intention of that saying. So that was supposed to be, and that's a recurring phrase that is said over and over again. And one of the deadpan doctors she's speaking with points to a painting, an oil painting of a girl on a beach. And he said, if you keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, one day that'll be you. And then that painting is also in her apartment. And then we also see a picture of her in a blue dress that come to be, she is in her oils, so to speak.
Well, more funny scenes. Her sister, her two sisters, there's a blonde and the blonde is like a beauty pageant winner from back in the day who's now just, in
a specific moment that kind of was part of the downfall of Jane.
Right. And her other sister, who's the brunette,
Alice.
She seems to be the more sensible one, but she had a falling out with her mother, their mother, which resulted in Alice not speaking to their mother for some years. But there's a scene where her beauty pageant sister...
In their youths.
Well, I was going to talk about when she fakes being mentally ill. She invites Jane over because she wants to... A social worker's coming over to assess whether or not she should go on disability for being mentally ill. So there's an exchange where she's asking her sister, like, how do I do it? How am I convincing? And the way it plays out, like, the social worker gets so freaked out, like, she can't get out of the house fast enough. I thought that was funny.
Sally Hawkins acting as a coach is very funny. And then also it's kind of a meta about playing mentally ill. In a way that I liked. But Billie Piper asking her just like, well, what do you do? What do you feel? And just the way, there's no way of knowing how... And I think that's the purpose of the film overall, is how does someone feel that is schizophrenic?
When Jane is driving her nephew somewhere...
Alice's son.
And then she slams the brakes and...
It's knocked out.
She knocks he's probably like 8 or 9. She knocks him like cold out. And then she gets into a fight with the dad. Tony. So her brunette sister's husband, Tony... Jane doesn't like him because she knows he's cheating on Alice. So she knocks the boy out. So when he gets home, he has a big knot on his head. And Tony's upset, like, you're so irresponsible, blah, 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 blah. And Jane pipes back with, like, I know you're cheating on her.
Income fine.
So, yeah, I just thought that the way Jane was played was so good. Because she seems very, like, with it. I don't know what the word to use.
Well, she is. It's just that what she's experiencing, it comes out in garbled ways that she's experiencing things nobody else is, and
yeah, but it felt, like, genuine. And I don't know, like, I don't have first-hand experience with these feelings, but just viewing it, I felt like it... There were moments when I thought like, oh, this is someone playing crazy or something. Yeah. So very well done.
Well, one of my grandmothers was schizophrenic, and there were moments that she does things in the film that I'm like, oh yeah, like word salad, that's a typical thing with this disorder. But just...
Well, I meant first-hand experience, like I'm not schizophrenic.
Oh yeah, okay.
I've been around people who are schizophrenic.
Yes,
but to truly say whether it's genuine or not, I don't know, but such a great performance that it didn't leave me sort of laughing at her.
Right.
I was just more laughing at like how ridiculous life is.
Right, and it's ultimately very empathetic. Also, there's a part where she's peeling wallpaper, which I'm assuming is a nod to the very famous Charlotte Perkins Gilman story, The Yellow Wallpaper, about a woman going crazy in her house with the yellow wallpaper, which is kind of a cornerstone of women mental illness narratives.
Okay.
I had to laugh because there's the scene where she's dragged out of the house like Blanche Dubois. the three young sisters are all in color-coded dresses, red, blue, and green.
Okay.
Which I thought was funny because we just had watched Ratchet, where it was the same thing, the color coding of those three women, Judy Davis, Sarah Paulson, and Cynthia Nixon.
What was the incident with her beauty pageant sister that you said was...
Well, there's two like major instances from her past where Morfydd Clark, who plays Saint Maud, plays the young Jane, and she's left at the altar.
That's right. That's what I forgot.
And
the opening of the film is her
Yeah.
being left at the
Yeah.
altar, and her mom saying that she's never been so embarrassed. The mom is very insensitive.
Penelope Wilton is the mother, who's also a really great actress. She has entered this beauty contest but can't speak in public, so she doesn't get her statement out, so she's disqualified, I believe, when her younger sister, the beauty queen, wears the dress and wins that same competition. And then there's a lot of allusions to how Jane is much like the mother, Vivian, because Penelope Wilton is played as this domineering, imperious woman who clearly has some mental health issues of her own, and also some very good scenes with Penelope Wilton. I like when the mother meets Mike, David Thewlis, and Sally Hawkins and holds their hands and says, "You've got the devil in you."
Yeah.
The director is a young actor, Craig Roberts, who is probably still best known for his 2010 film Submarine, Richard Ayoade's debut. You saw him in Neighbors. He's also in this film called The Fundamentals of Caring with Selena Gomez, which I hated. This is his second film, so it was actually and he wrote it. So I thought it was very impressive.
Yes, I agree. What would you give it?
I think 3.5 out of 5. I like the look of it. Kit Fraser was the director of photography who also shot this great film called Under the Shadow in 2016 from Babak and Bari. It is one of those films I feel like it's just going to fall to the wayside, and Sally Hawkins is, I think, a phenomenal actress, and she has a lot of lead roles like this with films that ultimately I think are forgotten. Like there's this 2016 film called Maudie, which she stars with Ethan Hawke, where she plays this handicapped artist in Nova Scotia. Also, like, fantastic performance that just ultimately people forget about, I think.
I will give it 3.5 out of 5 as well.
Oh, good.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, bye.
Bye.